boys and girls. Today we're going to be reading a very special book. I like this book a lot, and I think you will too. It's called Edwardo, the horriblest boy in the whole wide world. John Birmingham has written the book and drawn the pictures, and the book was published by Random House Children's Books. Let's get to it. Edwardo was an ordinary boy. He would get up in the morning, get dressed, have his breakfast, go to school, play games, eat his supper, and go to bed. Sometimes Edwardo would kick things. "You're a rough boy, Edwardo. You are always kicking things. You are the roughest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo became rougher and rougher. Like most children, Edwardo made a lot of noise. "You're a very noisy boy, Edwardo. You're the noisiest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo became noisier and noisier. From time to time, Edwardo was nasty to little children. "You're a nasty bully, Edwardo. You're the nastiest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo became nastier and nastier. Occasionally, Edwardo was not very nice to animals and would chase the cat. "You're a cruel boy, Edwardo, chasing the cat. You're the cruelest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo became more and more cruel. Edwardo was not always good at keeping his room tidy. "Your room gets messier and messier every day, Edwardo. You're the messiest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo's room became messier and messier. Often, Edwardo would forget to wash his hands and brush his teeth in the morning. "Oh, you're a dirty boy, Edwardo. You're the dirtiest boy in the whole wide world." Edwardo became dirtier and dirtier. And as the days turned to weeks, and the weeks into months, Edwardo became even clumsier, crueler, noisier, messier, dirtier, nastier, ruder, and rougher, until one day they said, "Edwardo, you really are the horriblest boy in the whole wide world." Then, one day, when Edwardo kicked a pot of flowers, it flew through the air and landed on some earth. "I see, you're starting a little garden, Edwardo. It looks lovely. You should get some more plants." Edwardo was good at growing things, and he was asked to help people with their gardens. Cruel Edwardo was waiting for the dog with a bucket of water. He threw it over the dog as it came by. "Thank you so much, Edwardo, for washing my muddy dog for me. You are so good with animals." And so, Edwardo was asked to clean and look after everybody's pets. Edwardo's room was getting so untidy that he could not find anything. So, he threw everything out of the window. All Edwardo's things landed in a truck that was collecting for poor people. "Thank you, Edwardo, for giving all your things away." "Look at Edwardo's room. Why can't you all be as neat and tidy as he is?" Edwardo was becoming dirtier and dirtier until one day he became so dirty that flies started to chase him down the road. He jumped into the river to get away from them. A lady pulled Edwardo out of the river and took him back to her house. She gave him a hot bath and washed and ironed all his clothes and sent him back to school. "Look, children, look at Edwardo. He's the cleanest and smartest boy in the whole school." One day at school, nasty Edwardo pushed little Alec very hard. At that moment, one of the lights in the room crashed down on the spot where Alec had been standing. "You have just saved our little Alec. What a quick-thinking boy you are. You should look after the little ones." And from then on, Edwardo looked after the little children. One day, Edwardo was making more noise than he ever had before, which frightened some lions who had escaped. They were so frightened by noisy Edwardo that they went back to their cage. "You're very good with lions, Edwardo. Perhaps you could come and help me." Now, from time to time, Edwardo is a little untidy, cruel, messy, clumsy, noisy, nasty, and rude. But really, Edwardo is the loveliest boy in the whole wide world. Now, isn't that just the sweetest book? I really like how Edwardo turned out in the end. What about you? Next week, we're going to be reading a book about a unicorn. A unicorn called Thelma. I'm really excited. I'll see you then.